What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and I have the honor and privilege of talking to my friend, my brother. He is the major domo of both Flawless Victory MMA in
Woods, and I
Ridiculous,
have the
as
honor
well
and
as High
privilege of
Def
talking to
Python.
my
Literally,
friend, my
the
brother. He
YouTube
is
page
the
that is
major
sweeping the
domo
nation.
of both.
He is the one, the only Coach Antoine Hood.
What's
Antoine,
up, big
what's
dog?
up, man?
How you doing, man?
Good, dude. It's been a while. I mean, it's crazy because the last time we actually physically saw each other was like the first Bellator at the Forum.
Yep.
And I mean, Daniel Rodriguez, you know, uh, basically made his Bellator debut, and he's now in the
I
UFC.
know, man.
Um,
That's crazy.
it's just, I mean, crazy stuff. You've match made, you've put a lot of fighters, by not just your coaching, but your involvement with 559 fights. You guys have set some people to big shows yourself, and I mean it's established itself in terms of a crazy wealth of MMA platforms. As one of the elite promotions here in California. So it's tremendous. Thank you for everything that you're doing, and you're doing so much.
You know what's crazy that all of this kind of happened by chance too. Because I'm pushing 40 now, and like my whole life as a martial artist, I don't have one memory where I wasn't doing like karate or kickboxing or taekwondo or wrestling or something like that. So but as a kid, I always had like two passions. Like all my life, I always wanted to have my own like pet store and run my own martial arts school. So but for me, it was never like, okay, I'm going to train to become the greatest fighter in the world and things like that too. Like I always wanted to like get a bunch of knowledge and just kind of pass it on to people. So watching myself, like after I got out of the Marine Corps and when I was competing in like Muay Thai and boxing and things like that, a lot of stuff I didn't like, so I didn't like the way people were being treated. I didn't like the lack of information. I didn't like the way managers and coaches were like screwing over like other fighters and things like that too. So when I moved to California, I decided that, there was a bigger platform, more opportunities to kind of do things like that. So I came out here and started teaching like real small and, started bringing a couple of guys up. And then what turned into just me being busy after my regular job turned into, okay, this guy's going to go take this amateur fight. And then it went to, okay, this guy's pretty good at amateur fighting. And there's a guy went pro. Okay, now this guy's at Bellator, and then now I'm matchmaking for amateur promotion. And, now I'm helping out LFA with fights. And now I was the cut man one time for LFA, and then now I'm the cut man for California Cage Wars. All the stuff is stacked on, and at the same time running my pet service, which is why I'm in here right now. I'm in the snake room. I breed and raise and sell ball pythons, so that's my other business, along with a bunch of other stuff I do. And it's a lot like it's boredom, dude. I live in the desert, man. There's like everything is far away. Like I'm 3 hours from Vegas, 3.5 hours from San Diego, probably 2.5 hours from LA, and 3.5 hours from the Central Valley. So I'm like right in the middle of nothing. So I have to keep myself busy. So as far as like the fighters in the gym, we're established out here. We're having a good time. And then managing fighters outside of the gym, it's just this whole busy life, man. So, and that's going to be my excuse for waiting so long. So finally get on the podcast.
No, absolutely. Well, my dad taught me, find out, I guess his exact words, and it was born in the Bay Area, so I was in like first grade, and this is a heavy question to kind of ask a 7-year-old, but we were asked to essentially, our assignment was to basically ask the most knowledgeable person in our lives at that point what the meaning of life was, right? And my dad basically said, find out what you love, find a way to get paid for it, and that remained true because he was a musician and he played at Fisherman's Wharf in San Francisco, and I saw him do that, and I mean, it took me a little bit later to figure it out, but I mean, this is something that you knew and kind of pursued, and I mean, almost right from the onset, and you found a way in many different fields to kind of let your love for whatever you're doing to expand it, and you've done it again. Most people call themselves Renaissance men and women. You're doing it all, like literally you're doing it all.
But see, to me, it's the cool thing about that is like all those little what everyone's calling like side hustles or whatever. It's everything I love to do, you know? So I love to put fights together. Like with 559 fights, you would never see like these severely like mismatched fights where one guy goes in there completely obliterates. You know, sometimes last minute things happen and you got to do what you got to do. But for the most part, 85, 90% of the time, it's evenly matched fights. You know what I mean? So, and that's why I want it, because I hate see even when my guys go in there and compete. Yeah, as a coach, it's cool seeing a one-sided fight. But if my guys go in there and totally obliterates the person from jump, he really isn't going to learn anything either, you know? And the amateurs, the cool thing about the amateur program, especially in California, is that there's so many amateur promotions. It's so many different avenues to build your resume, you know? So you can go to the Central Valley, go to SoCal, you go to Northern California. You can hop all up and down the state and get better, you know? So if you're busy, if you're a high school to college wrestler and then you decide to do amateur MMA and you're just running through people, you know, it's time to find some guys that you can't take down into a fight, you know, that you actually have to use your hands and be more versatile with. And that's what I love about this amateur program, man. And especially with 559 fights and a lot of other organizations out there too, like in SoCal, like Star and, you know, a bunch of other ones like that, man. There's some really good organizations out here and they're developing really, really legit fighters. And it's pretty crazy.
I think it's absolutely tremendous. Absolutely tremendous. And again, you know, giving back to both of the scenes of, you know, and communities in which you're passionate about, both, you know, the safe kind of cultivation of reptiles as well as the safe cultivation of fighters. My goodness, you know. And what I really want to ask is, I mean, for those who don't know, I mean, how did you become involved in combat sports, or at least your love for all things combat become what it is?
Well, I started in the 80s in Taekwondo, like a lot of kids did growing up there, like, because I'm from New Jersey originally. So I have family in New York and New Jersey, and that everybody pretty much trained growing up. Aunts, uncles, mom, dad was in the military, you know. So started out with Taekwondo like a lot of kids do growing up. And I was like a direct student under June Reed, the person who brought Taekwondo to the United States, you know. So went from there and then started doing Goju-Ryu karate up until high school. And then from there started doing kickboxing, you know. So just competing in all kinds of martial arts, you know what I mean? Forms, weapons, actually full contact stuff too. And doing and jumping into Muay Thai tournaments, even though I didn't know anything about Muay Thai at the moment, you know. So it's just crazy, like in the 80s and 90s and doing school at the same time, man. Like I just lived for it. That's all I did, you know. And even like as a young teenager, I kind of watched people, just listen to people get bad advice all the time from different coaches. And you can tell when people were just there just for the limelight and just kind of to get their face and get their school out there, you know. And I never wanted to be a guy like that. So once I got into the military, that's when I started grappling. The first time I ever did no gi, and I wrestled with a lot of college wrestlers and like aircraft pilots and different Marines like that too, kind of rounding out my game. Then moving out here, I decided first and foremost that I want to get my black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So when I first moved here, I found a couple of jiu-jitsu schools I went to. I actually drove all the way to LA my first couple of months here and trained at Eddie Bravo's gym a couple of times too. Like 2.5 hour drive. I did it a couple of times a week and stuff too. And then, man, I was just too dead, bro. Like that 2.5 hour drive was just nuts. And then I met Sam Basco out here, which is the no-gi instructor at my gym. He had his own gym at the time. And I started training with him. And then in exchange for training with him, I started teaching striking, you know, Muay Thai, boxing, and things like that. And when his business went under, eventually I had such a big class base that I just decided, hey, man, you know what? This is the time. So I started out of my friend's garage here with his 2 twin daughters. 2 people turned to 10, 10 turned to 20, 20 people turned to 30. And then they're like, hey, coach, like, quit being a bitch and get a building. I'm like, I was like, okay, you know. So I got a building, you know, been a couple different places now in town. And that thing just blew up to what it is today, man. You know, it came from like me just, you know, helping a couple people out outside of, you know, my work schedule and to get people in amateur fights. And then those guys go on pro. And then, you know, things happening right now, man. And it's crazy because like when I started the gym and I decided I wanted to train fighters, I wanted to take a guy with 0 martial arts experience and bring him to the big show. And with a couple of guys, I did that. Like guys who could barely make a fist their first day. and like they went on and did like 10, 12 amateur fights. They did pros. They won fights at Combate Americas and things like that, man. And that was pretty cool, man. So I just love everything about it, man. And just watching it grow, even over the past decade, mixed martial arts is crazy. It went from a point to where it was like novelty to see females fight. And then now all of a sudden, like you got Angela Hill headlining the card, you know, with Michelle Waterson, you know what I mean? And, you know, just things like that, man. So, I mean, I'm enjoying the ride, man. I'm enjoying everything about it, the people, the experiences, and I'm still training myself. So I never stop learning. And that's my big philosophy with everyone.
That's tremendous. Now, I mean, I think it's cool, especially who you're affiliated with now in terms of your gym affiliation, because, you know, that 2.5-hour drive from the Central Valley to LA sounds eerily similar and reminiscent of one. I mean, he was my first Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu coach, one Matt Baker of then Matt Baker's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, now True Jitsu, you know, and that, you know, what it's become. But I mean, he started that school as a John Jacques Machado blue belt, which is crazy to think now. But I mean, there are only so many, you know, upper level belts, you know, I mean, anything that wasn't a white belt, right? And he was coming, you know, a couple times a week from Bakersfield to, you know, Jean Jacques HQ. So your story, I mean, it's
crazy.
Really
and that's what I was doing too. From Ridgecrest to Bakersfield is like 100 miles one way. So we were going out there twice a week for a long time, you know. I don't know if you know that, but, you know, we're no longer affiliated anymore. Did you know that? Did you know that at all? So, like, me and Matt kind of, like, parted ways, like, you know, a couple years ago, whatever like that, you know. But, yeah, I appreciate the time with those guys, man. I still talk to everybody at the gym, you know. And now with Alliance, I'm an Alliance brown belt now, you know. So, but, like, that drive was crazy. But it's something I really needed. I really wanted to do, you know, to kind of see that aspect of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you know. So, yeah, I had a great time, man. It was just something I really wanted. And now I kind of think about the drive to Bakersfield, and now I go to San Diego and train. I'm like, man, that Bakersfield drive looks real. That Bakersfield drive was easy now compared to going to San Diego to get out there and training and stuff too, you know. So, I mean, but you know, that's how it is, man. And I think from a coach's standpoint, it's always cool to see for your students to watch you and still watch you learning and having that student mindset, you know, figuring out what you want. So you got to set that example, man. The best way, like, I've never been like a do as I say, not as I do type person. You know what I mean? Follow my example and see what I'm doing. So that's where I am.
You know, and it's funny because, like, I would say, what, a decade? I mean, the last time that I was actively training in Bakersfield, I want to say it was like 2011, right? So just in the within the last 10 years, right? Look at the affiliations of just that one school. Obviously, Flawless Victory MMA is there. We've got, you know, Blacksmith BJJ. We have the Delano Jiu-Jitsu Club. We've got, I mean, there's like 5 affiliate schools just under that mantle, and then that's not including the game room and the mothership. Yeah. It's crazy.
It's a good affiliation, man. There's some cool people out there, man. But like I said, we enjoyed our time there, and you know, but our time passed with them, and we're on to other things, and we're just kind of geared towards more MMA right now, you know. But I'm still doing my own jiu-jitsu journey, which is fun. So I'm loving it, man. But then outside of that and doing jiu-jitsu, once these fights start back up too, you know, I'm still doing cutman work for California Cage Wars down in San Diego, which I got to get you some tickets to when they open back up too. Man, I love the organization, man. You know, it's one of those places on the reservation, man, where people come out, man, and they just give it everything they got because they got something to prove, you know. So I have a good time doing it. Shout out to Joe Phoebus over there and my boy Jim Cooley. He's the ring announcer for that too. So who's also about to come back out of retirement and fight, by the way. So at 46 years old, man, that guy's nuts.
Well, I think it's amazing, you know, especially that you had that entrepreneurial mind, right, to want to start something, because especially now, right, this year has been crazy for everyone worldwide, and people are trying to figure out what they can do versus, you know, like, I think Rogan was talking about like the amount of like mental depression and even unfortunately suicide that is happening in the last 5 months because you might have been just holding on with your mental health and what have you, and you had that relationship, you had that job, you
Yeah.
had the dollars and cents to your name and your bank account, or you lived in that particular area code,
Well, what
and
was
all
great.
of that within a matter of months for many, it's totally off the kilter, off the kilter. So especially like now, the fact that you were so entrepreneurial then, right? It's kind of set you up and positioned yourself, and especially, I mean, you've taken all the precautions right now with the kind of current state of things that you are able to still run, and I think that's, it says something. It
Right.
definitely says something.
Yeah, like I've always been a grinder when it comes to things like that, and like my philosophy is just, there's always a way, So when I had to shut down my gym for a couple of months and I had to still come out the pocket to pay the rent, my landlord wasn't giving me like any slack at all. He's like, "No, I want my money. This is how it's gonna go." So either give my money or get out. And because the way most martial arts gyms are set up, I mean, a lot of people could probably have the same story that a lot of the loans and grants we didn't qualify for, because most of the people you have as employees are probably teaching kids classes and some other classes here and there in exchange for training for free, or they have their own classes in exchange for being able to make their own money doing private lessons and things like that too. So they're kind of set up as independent contractors and not 1099. So that kind of screwed over a lot of gyms, So I think all of us need to be a little bit smarter about how we have our situation set up for the future. I mean, even if it's a bigger hit on your taxes, it's still something that we got to figure out, But I just have so many other things going on. Like the fighters I managed, there was no fights for a long time, so there's no money coming there. And then with the reptile business, the crazy thing about that is everybody started sending me their stimulus checks and buying stuff. So I had so many projects I had growing up, some like real high end snakes that I was selling for, $1,000, $3,000 and stuff like that, where people were just sending me the money, man. And some of the stuff I didn't want to sell, but I kind of had to. And it was different colors I could make again. So it was stuff that I'm gonna go back to this year and kind of do whatever. So a lot of you probably don't know about like the whole reptile industry, but especially with ball pythons, they come in so many different colors and pattern mutations like that you can get a snake for as low as $10, or you can get one that is expensive right now. It's like $35,000, $40,000. So, and I do somewhere in the middle of that. So, but yeah, it's a good. I should see if I can show you one real quick. Hold on.
Man, this is again, this is kind of cool because we are literally on the set of High Desert Pythons. Look at this. Oh my gosh. Look at the coloring on that though.
So yeah, this is called a freeway. And dude, a couple of years ago, man, these things were about $25,000.
Really?
Yeah, but I mean, then like when they became easier to make and more people made them, like the prices go down. But they run about like $900 right now.
Ooh, son.
So, yeah, this one's already sold. I'm just waiting for the weather to get itself together so I can send them off. And I ship all over the country, and I'm going to get my CITES certification to ship internationally. So, yeah, these guys right here is what kept the gym afloat.
So, I mean, theoretically speaking, like how big could he potentially get?
Well, they're relatively small python species. So like if one gets 5.5, 6 feet, it's rare. So like this is a male, he'll probably get maybe about 900 to 1,000 grams and maybe like 18, 20 inches long, and that's it. So
that's tremendous. That's crazy.
Crazy, right? So you might see me get bit on camera, but
I hope nobody here is saying, "Oh, that'll make some great snakeskin boots" or anything like that. Let's leave those comments out.
Yeah, a lot of people say stuff like that, but I mean, I don't pay any mind. It's pretty funny. So, but yeah, so thanks to those guys, man. That kept the business afloat. And now I'm just getting ready for the next breeding season. I'm expecting to make about 600 to 700 babies this fall. So coming to 2021. So, and I plan on keeping about 20% of them. So I need to make some more space in here.
It's pretty damn awesome. To me, I'm just saying, I'm kind of marveling at it, And what one thing that Everett Richard Osmer is kind of wondering, what are some of I kind of know the answer to this one, but I'm gonna let you handle it. What are some of your top fighters, and where can we watch them?
A lot of my guys have stuff on YouTube, especially some of the guys I manage and train. So like some of the guys I manage right now, he was on the Contender Series. If you look up Randall Braveheart Wallace, if you look up Drake Bowen, Emilio Horta, Victor Rico, those are all the guys I either train or manage and things like that too. So there's some really exciting fighters. Emilio lost his Combate Americas debut last year, but his fight now is almost at 500,000 views on YouTube. So, so it was a dope fight, and it's crazy because I think that was like his 13th fight total, and that was the first time he's ever been to a decision. But he really needed that fight though. But now he's out with some injuries and things like that, so he's kind of healing up. And then hopefully when things get back to normal, we can get some good fights for some of these guys too. So, but yeah, like I think my longest tenure fighter though, that's Victor Rico. So yeah, he's been with me since 2013. He started out like 230 pounds. He just walked in the gym. He was like, "Hey man, I played soccer before, like in high school. I just want to get in shape, So he got down from 230 to about 180 and decided he wanted to take a fight because I kind of tricked him into coming to one of our teammates' fights. So his very first fight, his MMA debut, won in about 1:20 rear naked choke, and then started just chopping down from there. And now that guy who walked on at 230, he fights at 145 now. So, yeah. And then he finally made it to, he had an okay amateur record. And then, early on when he became pro, I didn't kind of have the pull I did now. So it was one of them situations where he had to like take fights where he can, So he started out his MMA, his pro career like 0-3, but being an 0-3, his opponent's record was like 14-2 total. Like, you know what I mean? So like he fought some legit guys, you know what I mean? So, and he people say he got thrown to the wolves and things like that too, but they were all winnable fights, like the only one I really wasn't competitive was when he got caught early by Castle Williams, when he got like an elbow from the clinch in like 45 seconds, and really nothing you can do about that, So then, Combate America gave him a chance, man. He put on a real good show, got a first round KO there, and then now, like we talked a while ago, that, him getting up there in age is really not really feasible to kind of push him towards like, going to the UFC and things like that with all the stuff going on and a lot of things that he's restricted about. So I'm actually grooming him to take over the gym when I move away. So he's going to be the head coach of Flawless Victory when I finally leave California. So, which would be probably like 4 years maybe. So there's going to be Flawless Victor MMA. So, yeah. So, man, but he's a cool dude, man. A great coach, man. He's great jiu-jitsu, great striking. So, like, I'm confident that when I finally leave here, like, he'll take care of everybody,
I think it's a thankless job, and it's a selfless job to not just be a coach but also be a matchmaker, because I mean if you've been around a fighter during weight cuts and opponents falling out, they're not in the best of life conditions. Not one iota, right? Right?
Dude, I can tell you the same fighters over and over again, fight week, they go, "Man, I don't even know why I do this stupid ass shit. This is dumb." Like up until then, they're ready to rock, ready to go. I'm gonna kill this guy. And then they start to cut that weight and they like rethinking their lives, man. And they're super irritated. They're yelling at me. And I understand, but I just gotta not just laugh it off and take it all in. But it's the same story every time with the same fighters. It's like, I'm motivated, I'm high, weight cut time, I'm low. As soon as they get a little bit of food in them, boom, everybody's back to normal. We're ready to go. It is go time, So, I mean, it's something understandable. Weight cutting sucks, like a lot, So, a lot of my guys, they do it the right way, and they'll chop down little by little through the week and maybe cut 7-8 pounds when it's time, especially the amateurs. And some of the knuckleheads decide they want to cut 22 pounds in 10 days. And, so, I mean, but that's why amateurs here, though, because we're practicing. This is the time to learn your body, to learn how weight cutting works for you and how far out you should diet and how you peak during camp and stuff, too. This is time to make all your mistakes, man. And that's what I tell them, because we got a saying, a lot of people, I say, hey, man, what was John Jones's amateur record? Nobody knows. And guess what? Nobody cares.
Nope.
None of that's important. So, but once you go pro, all bets are off there. You start back from scratch and take everything you learned from the amateur ranks and apply it to the pros now, So it's freaking nuts, man. It's just so crazy that my first idea of becoming a coach wasn't the way it is now, because the coaches I had growing up, they really didn't make the best life choices. And I knew that growing up, you know what I mean? I know, okay, only take this guy's advice from fighting because he's in financial trouble here. He's doing this, he's doing that. You know what I mean? He got all kind of other legal issues. So, but now, like as a coach, I'm giving legal advice, financial advice. I'm like relationship advice, pulling people out of their houses. Some guys are having trouble. Like I'm like paying people's rent for them and their car note and stuff too. But these guys too, to me, are all like investments. So the thing people don't realize about the fight game is that they only see the tip of the iceberg. They only see the UFC fighters in the big arenas and the flashing lights and the hundreds of thousands of people are watching them. But nobody wants to put that work in like fighting in the tents or in the back of the casino and stuff like that, or smokers at people's gyms and things like that, where all the real grime and all the character building happens, So I just, as a coach, I'm here to bring them through all of that, man. And even though we celebrate the highs, I'm there for them for the lowest lows, man. And it's emotional roller coaster for me too, bro. Sometimes sometimes we have streaks where we haven't lost since God knows when, and then sometimes we'll go almost 6 months and we couldn't buy a win, And it just happens though, man. When you got to realize even some of the biggest gyms in the world going like these huge losing streaks and stuff like that. But it's just all part of the game, brother. And I wouldn't rather be anywhere else, man.
I think it's tremendous, though. I mean, especially considering all of the mitigating circumstances, it's nuts, But I mean, one thing that I have to say I love about 559, and so this is my theory, and in any type of combat sport, right? Especially when belts or medals are essentially given out, and you're given something to fight for, right? My pet peeve is for promotions, both in professional wrestling, MMA, Muay Thai, kickboxing, anything in a ring and a cage, essentially, right? When they have crappy title designs, like you gotta think, right? But you gotta think, like, if this fighter, this wrestler, whatever, is, having people over at their house and they have that on their mantle, do you want them to go like, oh, damn, what's that? Or like, ugh, what's that? And the one thing that, I mean, there's many things that I love about the 559 promotion, but the pinnacle is the belt, right? The fact that, I mean, it shows where it is. 559 fights right across there. The red leathering of the belt,
Crazy, right?
All of the other, like, it's pure genius. I love the belt, and when people watch it, it's not a small tiny emblem of like where they're champion from, or it's not a UFC title knockoff, the original title knockoff, with just or even like the title, kind of just, and then you put a sticker on it. No, it's like that is something that is, I mean, a crown jewel of the promotion, and as well it should be, because if two people are fighting for this title, it should be something that they're proud of. So, I mean, I love the title design.
If I could show you the group chats of me, the president, Jeremy Lukow, the grappling matchmaker, Mike Moreno, and our social media promoter, Rick Falcon, whenever we have to like go through new belts, like we have a grappling belt now, we're doing grappling tournaments. And if you can see the back and forth and the approval process of that, man, you'd be dying, bro. Because like, especially like with Mike being the former fighter too, you know what I mean, and then him being the coach, and then him like managing fighters, and Rick used to manage fighters, just kind of like the showman part of it. Man, we got so many fights over these things. It's crazy. So I appreciate that, you know, seeing somebody outside of our group and like actual fighters themselves trying to fight for the belt, appreciate the design and stuff too, man, because like we got a real good design team and like we bust our butts, man, to get stuff out there like that. So we wanted to make sure that we were an organization that stood out that way, you know what I mean, amongst other things, but especially with our belts.
No, 1,000%. And again, you know, just theoretically speaking, you know, like I grew up a fan of, you know, pro wrestling, like most, you know, most kids of the 80s and early 90s, right? And, you know, like when Gorilla Monsoon was like, oh, well, they're going to the pay window, you know, or, you know, it's like those little kind of nuances, right? Like, you know, when there's a bonus that happens, and especially if, you know, two athletes, two combatants are literally putting their lives on the line, not just in the fight itself, but, you know, you just mentioned how dangerous weight cutting can be, right? Amateur, pro, it doesn't matter, you know, and it's weird, but you're in many instances you're putting your life on the line, right? Yeah. So shouldn't it be for something that you're proud of? And I love the fact that you guys, you know, you, Jeremy, and the rest of the 559 team kind of know that it's almost like your sacrifices are worth it, you know, because now you're contending for this, you know, and it's just, I don't know, to me, just if you're looking at the storyline aspect of what we do, right, it makes it all worth it to me, just to me.
Dude, I mean, but just like, I mean, like, I'm a pro wrestling fan too, man. You know, as a kid, when I was in the 2nd and 3rd grade, we used to make belts out of like tag board and stuff and be in the playground walking around with them. And I used to get mad because I could never be the heavyweight champion because the guy who made all the belts wanted to be the heavyweight champion. So I had to be the fucking intercontinental champion. Which I'm like, isn't that the same thing? So, you know, I mean, even back then, man, it was all about the belt design, you know, like we just making sure you had like the biggest piece of gold, the biggest plate on the front and stuff too. And you wanted one that everybody else wanted to take from you, you know? And, you know, psychologically, you know, people try harder that way, you know? So, you know, I think it's just a big symbol of accomplishment and your hard work and dedication, and you should be rewarded as such, you know?
No, 100%, you know, and it's, I mean, it might get a little bit of heat. And again, you know, I'm sending the hate tweets to this guy, according to Woods, not hard to find. But I mean, the new design of the UFC titles, oh man, it looks like garbage. It's like a cross between and I understand why theoretically they did it, right? They were like, oh, it's more cost effective just to put a jewel on there. And they've got a working relationship with, like, I think it's called Bixel, whatever jewelry company that makes whatever gaudy pieces of jewelry, right? And air quotes jewelry. But it looks like a cross between like one of the medallions from Power Rangers, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, or
I'll be honest with you, man,
the paper
I
plates.
hated it at first too, but it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's grown on me. Is that I don't really pay attention to it, and maybe that's the problem, you know. Like, I feel like maybe it's, you know, with my schedule and that, but like I miss a couple of cards now, you know. There was a time where I never missed Ultimate Fighter, I never missed a Contender Series, you know. But you know, and now sometimes, man, I'm like, man, this card. I look at the card and I'm like, oh, if I don't know you personally, I'm probably not even gonna watch it, you know. But and then the belt to me is just I think the brand is just so big now that the belt for the UFC fit, like how it looks aesthetically, is like more of an afterthought now. And I mean, you can take that a bunch of different ways, but you know, being the UFC champion means a lot more. It's prestigious as a title than the actual physical belt itself. So I think that's how they get away with just having the belt that they have now, you know. It's freaking nuts, man. But it's all right. I don't hate it as much anymore.
I mean, it's cool. Like I said, I mean, nobody has to feel the way that I feel. But I mean, literally, when I first saw the new iteration, and again, the theory behind it was like, oh, well, we can't give a title belt for every time that our
Yeah,
champion defends their title. Well, you guys implemented that. I mean, Ric Flair is not walking around with 80 titles every time he
yeah.
defended the damn title. Like, like that was your deal. So
And even if,
you
and the
kind
thing,
of created the problem. And for me, it's just like that title, the new incarnation of the title. I mean, not just a Power Ranger, but like those Dixie paper plates that you get at the cookouts. It's a gold version of that, right? And
oh
then
shit.
they came out with the BF title, and it even looks whatever because they didn't even change the color of the paper plate. They just made it silver. It's just and called
Yeah, I mean,
BMF.
and the thing is
That's what
too,
we're
like
doing.
and then like putting the stones on it for title defenses. If they lose the belt, you have to get a new belt anyway for the champion anyway. So you have to start all over regardless. So I guess it just, and I just don't see how it should cost that much more money. You know what I mean? Like it's the UFC, dude. You're the number one MMA promotion. So like money's coming from somewhere. Like a company would give their left arm to somehow put some logo on the side of one of those belts and come out of the pocket every time for it. So, but yeah, I don't know, man. It's freaking
Yeah,
Power
that's right.
Ranger.
You get. I know you're totally like evolved. So I don't want to get you in. This is again, people. It's
No, I
my
mean, no, you're not getting me. Like, I don't work for the UFC. Fuck that. I just think it's hilarious, though. Nah, man. Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm not putting on my superhero cape for the UFC, man. They do a lot of fuck shit that a lot of organizations don't do. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people give like always make Bellator a second fiddle to the UFC, but I know fighters who fought for both, and a lot of those guys would rather stay in Bellator. Why is that? You know, a lot of fighters would, when you ask them, hey, like I'm sure you had people on the show too, and it's like, yeah, man, Bellator treated me better. They were a little bit more better organized, because a lot of changeover with the UFC back in the day, like with Burt Watson leaving and things like that. A lot of people, when he left, was like, man, I don't even care if I get cut anymore because they were close to Burt Watson and like everybody else, which is crazy to me, So, I mean, to each his own. But I hate Bellator's name.
It's all good. It's all
So
good.
I'll spread the hate out there though. But shout out to Scott Coker, man. Shout out to Rich Chow. But I never liked the name ever. So I mean, that's just me.
But for real, But I digress. But I mean, Everett wants to know what got you going down the adventure of pets and breeding pythons and reptiles.
Well, so when I lived in New Jersey, there was this empty lot next to our building that we used to go out and like running around and playing in. And one day we lifted open this board. There was like a bunch of like northern brown snakes and salamanders under it and stuff. And like I was freaked out. I was like, what the hell is all of this? So, being the nerd that I am, I went to the library and did some research and found out how to take care of these things. And at that point, I convinced my mom to get me like a gigantic tank, and I had a bunch of snakes in this tank that were like escaping out and running around the house and things like that. So it's just something I enjoyed doing. And I actually sold them to local kids in the neighborhood. Like I would catch them, find a bunch of them. I learned how to tell them male from female, and I would sell them for $2 a piece, and that $2 paid for my candy and my snacks from the corner store and my Street Fighter 2 fund, because that was my thing as a kid. I was spending almost like $100 a month putting coins in Street Fighter 2, getting better at it too. Like every character, finishing the game, betting against people, getting into fights because older people got mad that I was cheating with guile and stuff. So that along with martial arts, man, those are the two things I love doing my whole entire life. And then when I ran into ball pythons, it was like my last year in the Marine Corps. And a friend of mine in the barracks, he had to get like a big, like they call it junk on a bunk inspection, where they check like all of your stuff, including your room. So he gave me his glass tank and said, "Hey man, can you like watch my snake for me?" And I was like, "What the hell is this?" He was like, "Oh, it's a ball python." And I knew about pythons, but I didn't know about this like specific species. And then over the years, I started like, getting books and seeing stuff online that they came and started coming all these like weird colors, and people were making money off of these things. And that not only is something I can enjoy, but actually have a viable business off of. Like there's a gene called the piebald gene in ball pythons, and those things go about they went about $25,000 at the time, back then. And now I make them every year. Like they have like white banding on them. They can have a little bit of white. They can have like be almost like 100% white too. And the first time I made one of those, man, I was like, oh man, it was so cool. And I ended up selling it. I have one of the original ones as an adult right now, but I'm not letting her bite my face off, So a lot of them aren't mean, but I prefer to keep the mean ones out of the group because they eat better. And if you eat better, you get bigger. And if you get bigger, you can breed faster, So I'll show you one of those real quick.
Yeah. Everett, you're getting your money's worth, bud. Like, you're getting to see them up close and personal. So just saying. And again, shipping nationwide. Oh, damn. Whoa. What is that, an albino or?
No, it's piebald. So albino is this amelanistic. So all the brown in the snakes, it makes it yellow with red eyes. And when it has the white on it, it's called piebald. So like our bald eagle, like the American bald eagle, bald is short for piebald. So it has like the white head. So it's called the piebald eagle. Whoa, you see that?
Whoa.
She's not playing today. So it's called the piebald, like the piebald eagle. And piebaldism is a recessive trait, she is hungry. Get out of here. So yeah, so they ran almost $25,000-$30,000 back in the days, man. Yeah, man. And then now they sell for like $1,000, $1,500 and stuff like that. And I make so many of them. And then they just so many other colors, man, and there's so many patterns, and it's just fun, man. And just watching them, I still enjoy watching them eat. I just did a video last week. I did a feeding video, and a lot of people don't like that part, but I enjoy it, man. I feed some of them live, some already pre-killed, and they wrap them up and stuff like that. And
you tripped Everett out. He's just like, wow. You're not the only one, Everett. I'm like, oh dang, I've never seen anything like that, in my life. But I mean, it shows, Antoine's commitment and to his passions, and I think it's cool to know because again, holy smoke, what is that?
So this is called a banana.
I can see why.
So when they get older, every time they shed, they get these little black dots on them like bananas. So like they kind of ripen up. And this is probably the most popular morph. Like it's probably the most Googled morph, the most YouTube search. It's the banana. So, but this one has some other hidden genes in them too. So he has like 2 recessive genes in them. And make sure he's on camera.
That looks like tie-dye. Like
crazy, right?
That's true. That's trippy. Damn.
Almost looks fake, right?
Yeah. Damn.
So
that's crazy.
And then, so a couple of years ago, these things were about $35,000 a piece.
Whoa. Well, I can see why. I totally see why.
But now, like I said, this one is a little bit more special. Like it'd be all day for me to explain like what else is in there. But like this base morph now, you probably can buy it for like a couple $100, But yeah, this guy's crazy.
Yeah. I'm absolutely like awestruck because I've never seen anything like quite like that. I mean, it's like a piece of art, like nature's art. My goodness.
Yeah, it's nuts. But like stuff like that, you can make in one generation because they call it like a dominant gene or a codom. So if you put 2 of those together, you got a 1 in 4 chance of what they call a super banana. So they carry both sets of genes. And with that one, anything you breed it to will at least come out banana. So that's kind of cool thing about that. and they'll never get the dark spots on them, and that's kind of crazy, you know. One more. Let's see. And this one is probably my second most expensive snake right here.
Wow.
So, so this is one of my males I just picked up. He's gonna be one of my breeder males. He's about $3,000.
My goodness!
But
it's like watercolor.
But he'll make $6,000 and $7,000 to $8,000 animals next year. So
that is absolutely that's nuts. That's nuts. And yeah, I mean you're tripping Everett out right here.
Thanks, Everett. Appreciate it, man.
Wow, you know that's oh my gosh. That's I mean it's a treat. My goodness.
And what's crazy about that is like as far as where I am, like as far as like the hierarchy of ball python breeders out there, I would probably consider myself like middle of the pack. You know, there's just so many other guys. Like you see those posters behind me with those snakes on there, the two bottom ones. So those probably belong to I would say probably the number 1 or number 2 ball python breeder in the world. And I kind of keep those as my motivation, you know, because everything on there I can make myself, you know. So like I would say maybe 80% of the stuff I have the ingredients to make all those different colors and patterns up there. So that's just motivation to kind of keep grinding to keep doing your thing. But it's animals, so it's never guaranteed with stuff. You know, animals get sick, animals can stop eating, animals can just because you put two things together doesn't mean they're gonna breed, you know. And you can't do it the way dogs. You can't have like this horny dog and like mount them up on a female to do their thing. Like they have personalities, you know. I might have this breeding plans for these two animals, and they may hate each other's guts and be on opposite ends of their bins forever, you know. So y'all gotta have a backup plan, and it never goes the way you want it to either, you know, because they lay eggs. So sometimes you got like infertile eggs, or the eggs might die off, or they might not hatch, you know, whatever. So, I mean, the animals is weird, man. Not as weird as humans though. So if I can deal with a bunch of fighters, with a bunch of fighters who most of them, you know what I mean, aren't working and got their own problems and trying to keep their head in the gym and train, I can deal with a bunch of animals. So I just got to keep their enclosure clean and throw a rat in there once a week. You know what I'm saying? So
no, I mean, I know this question is almost like, you know, what's your favorite fighter, you know, and as best I know, snakes don't have ears so we can ask this question safely. But Everett wants to know, what's your favorite kind of snake?
So as far as ball pythons, my favorite morph is the one that I showed you last. So that one's is a red stripe, yellow belly, and clown is like the main gene in there. But my favorite snake, period, probably is the Gaboon Viper. So, which is a venomous snake, and they have, I think, the longest fangs. They have like 2-inch fangs. So, I will never own one, but I won't do the venomous thing at all. Like, I've never had a desire to own one. It's just too many things that can happen, you know. So, like, no matter how mildly venomous any snake is, the most dangerous venomous snake in the world is the one that just bit you, you know. And I've been bit by a rattlesnake before in North Carolina, and it was just so luckily it was a dry bite on my leg, you know. So that's not something I want to deal with, but it's a good-looking animal, man. It's real pretty, but those things are, like, fast. They're this big, short, fat vipers. They have some of the fastest strikes. And I've seen one bite through its own lip to bite somebody that was trying to milk it and get venom from it. So they're like vindictive little bastards. So yeah, man, Gabby Viper. Ugh.
Oh, I can see why. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. My goodness, it looks absolutely gorgeous. You know, so I know why. I know why. Which, I mean, obviously, you know, the business aspect, you know, right, of high desert pythons is one thing, but you know, another kind of venture that you've went on was basically having a high desert pythons YouTube page, right, and having that kind of resource for people, you know, to find out more about what you're doing, and also talking. I mean, you've literally developed a community, you know, or kind of highlight the community that was already there. So, I mean, what was the need for that? Because, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. You are reaching out to so many people and so many lover of all things Python.
Right.
So, right.
So the channel itself just birthed out of like the COVID. I didn't start it till the lockdown happened, which was like almost a week before my 38th birthday. And it was always a thing I wanted to do, but I wanted to develop. So I wanted to learn how to edit my own videos. I wanted to learn like Photoshop or some kind of cheaper app or whatever to like edit my own thumbnails and things like that. And being a business owner, I always try to tell people, if you're pushing a brand and you have a product, you need to put your face out there so people can trust you and trust where stuff is coming from. And for a long time, I wasn't listening to my own advice, like Jeremy from 559 Fights. I always tell him, hey man, you should do a podcast. You should do a live video every week. So people have this stigma about you who don't even know you. So get yourself out there and let people know where you're coming from. And then once he started doing that, he goes, hey bro, maybe you should take your own advice. I was like, God damn it, you're right. So just practicing being in front of the camera, because I hated it, dude. I would have like anxiety. I've never been a camera person. You know what I mean? Like, even though I'm not as lean and mean as I used to be growing up and stuff too. And people get self-conscious in front of the camera and stuff like that. So it's just that and just talking in front of it and just getting used to things. Like, it was a task, man, but I took it as another challenge, Like, I mean, I'm a United States Marine, goddammit. I shouldn't be scared of anything. I've been in the ring with people twice my size, beating my face in the ground, and I was scared about being on camera. I'm like, stop being a bitch. So that's what I did. So, and then a lot of my good friends in the reptile community always saying, hey man, you should really do it. You're funny, you're this, you're that. So I just went into it, just dove right into it. And the first couple of videos, I knew they were going to not be as well, but I started investing into like everything else, man. And I told myself, if I'm going to do a YouTube, I'm going to make it to where eventually I make money off of it. It's a profitable thing. So I invested in good lighting. I redid the room. I bought a new MacBook, which I hated Apple laptops, but it was the best for what I wanted to do. So I invested in the MacBook. And I just went for it, man. So, and then inside of like the first 3 months, I got my first 1,000 subscribers. I hit like my first 1,000 view video, like 5 or 6 videos in. And then now I'm almost monetized, man. I should be monetized by the end of this month. As far as views go, I'm like maybe 89% close on like watching my analytics and tracking too. So I'll be getting paid for it really soon. And I hit my first 10,000 view video like 2 weeks ago too. So, I mean, it's just grinding, man, and just doing a lot of stuff. And just like with fighting, I listen to people that I know do better than I did. I watch. There's like a lot of big YouTubers that I'm real good friends with, and I pick their brain, man, on the phone with them for hours, showing up at their house, knocking on the door. Hey, man, let's sit down and look at this. And so what worked for you? What didn't work for you? And do I need to really break the bank to do this? Because I don't really see the point of buying a $5,000 camera and I'm making $200 a month on YouTube for this thing, So we found a good balance on how to put it together. And like, I already had a social media following with my personal Facebook. So I've been maxed out at 5,000 for like almost a couple of years. So using that and my personal Instagram to build that audience, and then having the reptile world come together too. And there's a lot of people have wanted nothing to do with reptile stuff. So like when I invite people to my page or to my Instagram, people have messaged me, you know what, man? Like, I'm definitely afraid of snakes. I want nothing to do with them. But, but you're my homie, so I'll support. And some of those guys now, they're on like their 5th and 6th snake now from me. There's pro fighters, like shout out to Trey Branch. Trey has like 3 snakes from me now, and now he's a ball python guy. So I get a call a couple times a month. Hey man, you done? What you got coming up next? And I show him some pictures. He'd be like, all right, send it, bet. So it's cool, man. And cool thing about it is I was able to cross over my love to both things because I sponsor a lot of fighters now, So I sponsor, Alex Perez, that he's the man, you know what I mean? He's the next flyweight champion of the world, guaranteed. Miguel Jacob from Bellator, he trains on the Black House, sponsor him. Serena Southpaw De Jesus, sponsor her. And there's a list of other guys too, man. So now, like, my logo was on the canvas of 559 Fights, you know what I mean? It's just, just tying both of them together. And it's cool to help out, with some fighters, man. Like a couple of $100 goes a long way for some of these guys. You know what I mean? Even if it's to help out for food for a couple of weeks or to help knock off a bill in fight camp because they kind of like took some hours off on their regular job. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I'm all for it, man. So you'll see a couple of guys coming up soon wearing the logo, man, on their shorts and stuff too, and on their banner. So if you look at my intro on my video, you see Miguel Jacob and Serena in the video with my logo on their stuff too. So, and I'm super proud of that, man. And Alex, man, like he's been promoting me so much, man. Like every time he's on a podcast, he's wearing one of my shirts. He's bigging me up, helping me do contests and things like that too, man. So I appreciate those relationships and those friends out there, man. They really helping me out, man. So
no, I think it's tremendous, and again, you have found a way to make your passions work for you, right? Yep. And I think that's absolutely vital. I obviously, this whole kind of situation that we're in, it's a lot of negative that has happened in this year. I can't think of any time in history, where so much has gone on in one calendar year, right? And worldwide implications. But I mean, there are going to be people that are going to come out of this stronger than they were before. And that's kind of it, and I hope that folks will do what you did and figure out what they love and figure out a way to, money, that'll come and go and whatever, but what makes you happy? Because this life is finite, right? You never know what can happen one moment to the next. You want to hear one day you hear it, next minute, next second you're gone, so you're doing it, my man. And I'm proud of you. I can't.
I appreciate it, brother. Because remember when Frank Mir said a long time ago, he said his biggest fear is meeting his stuff, the potential that he would have, however way it goes or some shit like that, you know what I'm saying? But like that kind of hit home to me, you know what I mean? Like, can you imagine like if all the stuff you wanted to do, you never decided to do it because you were too scared to quit your job or to step out on a limb and take some risks, you know what I mean? And then come to find out when it's all said and done, you could have did everything like through your wildest dreams if you just would have took that chance, you know what I mean? So, I mean, and none of us are guaranteed tomorrow at all, like as many things as I do, as many people who depend on me and vice versa. Like, you know what I mean? There's no guarantee we can wake up tomorrow, man. So, like, if I'm on my deathbed, I want to look at myself and go, man, hey, man, you did it, bro. Like, you made a better life for your kids. You made a better life for people around you, your students and your friends and family, So, and that's what it's all about to me, man. Like, even though we'll all never know the meaning of life, and there probably is there's no standard meaning of life. But for me, I'm going to enjoy myself, man, and make sure everybody around me is good, So,
well, I appreciate you. And Gilbert Neves says, "What's up, Adam?
What's up, Gilbert?
Dude, love you too." And Gilbert, his brother Marky, and their dad Candyman, right? They're some of the top cutmen in the business. Yep. They helped out with Sparstar. I mean, not just Sparstar, but Combate Americas. Putting up La Jaula. So you probably at Emilio's fight, you've seen them doing their business. Yeah, And Chris Ronquillo says, Luke Cage. Dude, shout out to MMA Fight Pass.
Chris is the man, bro. I love that dude, man. Glad you tuned in, brother, man. Chris has always been like a cool supporter, man. Like I love doing their podcast too, and he's hilarious, man. Like he'll jump on your post, and if you're out there acting a fool, he will straight roast you. He will roast your head off. So, man, shout out to Chris, man. Miss you, brother. Hope to see you soon. Love you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I definitely want to, you shout outs, my man, because there's been a lot of people that have helped you get to the dance.
Dude, I'm gonna sound like this. I'm gonna sound like Nate Diaz giving shout outs and shit with all these people. I'm like, first off, I want to give a shout out to Steve the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. So everybody in the MMA world, shout out to all the fighters at Flawless Victory MMA and Flawless Victory Management, man. Love you, Vic. Love you, Emilio. Love you, Randall. Love you, Drake. Love you, Kohi brothers, man. Shout out to 559 Fights, one of the premier amateur mixed martial arts organizations in California. You know, just shout out to California Cage Wars. I'm the cut man for those guys. Shout out to LFA. I work with those guys all the time, and I got so many friends who fight for them, and so many guys that's managed by Ed Soares and trained at Black House. It's such a cool family up there, man. You know, so I appreciate everybody, man. I appreciate you for giving me a platform to come talk and come hang out with you for a cool hour. I didn't realize it was an hour already. That's how I looked up there too, man. And if you guys want to find me, you can find me on Instagram at coach_Antoine, Antoine. And if you want to go follow my reptile page, it's High Desert Pythons. And I would really appreciate it if you go to my YouTube channel, go find one of those videos, leave us a comment where you showed up from and how you found me. And all love, man. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Again, go ahead and follow him. I mean, Coach Antoine on both Facebook and Instagram. High Desert Pythons, literally everywhere. Go ahead and check him out because, I mean, you want to see those exquisite pieces of work that he's got, and you can get them shipped to your door, like right now. You know,
yeah, man. And then lastly, man, just you, man. You know, like you're somebody I watched and admired for a long time, and like you've been an inspiration for me. Even from afar, you know, when we see each other, it's always crazy. We have a good time, but you're really somebody that I watch for a long time, and I tell people about you. I share all your stuff, and to me, you're a grinder, man, and those are people that I respect so much, you know. So, no, I love your hustle, love your grind, and love you, brother.
Me too, man. Love you too, brother. Dude, I can't think of a better way to end this.
Heck yeah,
all love everywhere, you know. So.
And shout out to Alliance Eastlake too, by the way. Professor Elias Gallegos and Albert Aguirre, those are my dudes or whatever like that. So we ride or die too. So yeah, man, I'll holler at you later, brother, man. I gotta go do some other stuff. And we'll definitely talk soon, man.
All right, my man. For Coach Antoine, this has been According to Woods, and we are out.